it's just, it's on YouTube and they can hear you.
Oh, so be careful about what I say, is that?
It's not officially started yet, so.
Okay.
I could mute. Turn the mute off. Okay, you're live now.
Okay. Good afternoon. This is, well, Tim and I decided to call it a handbell petting zoo. So, today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the handbells, how they came to be, a little bit about, I will try to cover a lot of things, but if you have questions, please ask. Both, you can type them in if you're on Switcher, and
YouTube.
if you're live, you can, what?
You're on
YouTube, excuse me, on YouTube. And then those of you who are here get to play with them. You get to pet them in a little bit. So, handbells, well, bells.
Yeah,
We all think about bells, church bells.
yeah.
Almost all churches, especially built way back, all had bells. Well, I always wondered how that came to be, and I found out the other day that that we had, long before the circuit riders in the Methodist Church who used horseback to go from place to place to place to preach the gospel in Europe, there were bands of people who came to bring the good news, and they always brought bells with them so that they announced their arrival when they arrived in the community, and they would go to the town square and and spread the gospel. And so bells became associated with Christianity, and then as a result, as churches were being built, almost all of them had a bell to start with, to bring the congregations together or to announce things or whatever. And then, as they progressed, they began to put them in towers and have more than one, and they would just ring them indiscriminately. They just rang them. And somebody somewhere along the line decided to plan a pattern. And so if you had one person would ring a bell because you were pulling the rope to ring the bell. And that, so then 4 people got together if they had 4 bells, and they would ring a pattern of those 4 bells. And sometimes there were, in some cases, there's a whole carillon, which is a whole bunch of bells. That's how it got started. Well, those bell towers are cold in the wintertime. And then just like all of us, they began, especially if they had 6 or 8 people, they began to have more and more difficulty getting people together at the same time to practice. And it was really cold. So someone, and that name has been lost as far as I know, developed a handbell that could be so that they could practice their patterns in the warmth of the church. And then someone figured out that, oh, well, this sounds pretty good all by itself, and so then they began to do musical melodies, and hence we now have whole handbell choirs. We at Arvada have 5 octaves. There are 7 octaves total, I think. These bells range from an octave above this one, which is C7. They're all numbered. They all have, they are the regular musical alphabet, which is A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you go back
And then
to
you
A.
do it again. Thank you. But the numbers on these in an octave changes at C. An octave is like C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's an octave. And so middle C is C5. That would be on the piano, would be middle C. And that's what this one sounds like. So that's, and then, so C5 goes from C5 to C to B5, and then the next C is C6. So that's how, and when you first get bells, you start with the 5s. The first octave is 5, and parts of 6. It actually starts in the 4s, and then as you add, when we add an octave, we add notes on top and notes on bottom. So you're not just adding this octave down here or this octave up here. You're adding both until you get to the really big ones. And because these, and the bigger they are, the more expensive they are. These are between $300 and $400 a piece. And they can be purchased, and then they go, this is the C3, and it goes down to a C2 and a C1. So there's actually 2 C's below this. And the C1 is about that big around.
Ooh.
And
Person to pick it up.
What?
You have to have a really big person to bring it.
Well, and the one I saw was actually not made out of this material, it was made out of aluminum, making it much lighter.
Oh, yeah,
Because this one weighs about 15 pounds as it is.
wow.
Turn it around, Marion, so that it rings.
Huh.
And the reason I said turn it around is that on the handles, there's a little bell.
Okay.
See that? It's not on this side.
So there's a right and wrong side.
There's a right and wrong side. And if you have the bell symbol facing out, then the clapper isn't going to hit I can make it, but it's much harder. So if I turn it around, then the clapper is designed to hit on in this line. So when you see people setting up or getting ready, sorry, I thought it, I think I'll do that.
Yeah.
When you see somebody, well, this one, I'm looking at these bells and I'm trying to get ready to play, and I don't see that little bell on it, so I turn it over.
Ah.
That's why they're doing that. So, and every bell has a label, says C4. And if it is a sharp or a flat, that's the same bell. So it's A sharp and B flat, but it has both of them on it.
Ah.
Just like on the piano key, A sharp and B flat are the same thing. Now, if you have a wind or a brass person, they're going to say, no, it's not exactly the same note. Well,
No, near enough.
in percussion instruments, it is the same note. So,
And these are percussion instruments.
what?
These are, Drum.
This is a percussion instrument because it is struck. A piano is a percussion instrument because the strings are struck by a hammer.
Oh, I never knew that.
It is a percussion, that is, if it is struck by something, then it is a percussion instrument. So marimbas, all of those,
Xylophones,
xylophones, drums, timpani, and some percussion instruments obviously are tuned, and a snare drum doesn't really have a tune, but, so now you have another little tidbit as to what a percussion instrument is. So, let's see, I think I covered the history. Does anybody have any questions about where they came from?
okay, where did these particular bells come from? Somebody makes bells and sells them to churches?
These bells are made by a company named Schulmerich. There is also one named Malmark, and then there's one named, that I know of, there's probably many others, Whitechapel. Those are the three most common used in the United States. Schulmerich and Malmark are made in the United States, and Whitechapel is English, I believe.
And then I
Don't
presume
quote
they
me on that one, but
sell to the whole world then?
Yes.
Anybody who wants a bell has to go to one of these companies to buy
yes.
it?
Now, like I said, there may be companies in Europe that I just don't know about, but because handbells are played,
Well,
they're played in European, they're played places where we have Western music.
ah.
They are not so much played in countries that are primarily use Asian or African music as their base. So that's, I won't say they can't be, that's just not,
They don't use the same scales.
they don't use the same scales,
That's
yeah.
That's the big difference.
So, these bells, a bell can be played in a variety of ways. You can pick them up and simply ring them, and it's kind of a circular motion. Not quite, because if I really make a circle, I'm gonna hit the table. But you're coming out with a little bit of wrist, but you don't want too much. So, and then you come and you circle back so that your sound, because your sound goes from here, from right out here on the edge. The sound doesn't come down from down here, it comes from up here. So if you turn it down like this, the sound doesn't go that way as much, it comes right down here.
Ah.
When we have stands in front of us, Pat will tell you, I have a constant, get your bells up, because otherwise you're playing into the stand. The sound still goes out, but it doesn't go out as far. So this is a basic ring, and if you're counting it, if you're holding it 4 counts, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're holding it 2, it's 1, 2. So your circle is much shorter. And if you're doing quarter notes, so it's 1, 2, and again, the closer that you hold it to your body, the faster you can play.
Ah.
And you damp by pressing it generally here, can be down here. I never damp that one up here. Ever. Ever.
Knock you over.
It is one of those things, a lot of people tell me they can't play the big ones. But if you have noticed, primarily until this last year or so, the people who played the big bells were either Tim Kennedy or me.
You're not big.
And so it's a matter of, with the big ones, it's more a matter of leverage. You've got to keep them up. You've been playing this one. And if you let it get down like this, it gets really heavy really fast. So you want to keep it up. And I frequently play it with 2 hands, if I can. I noticed Pat was playing it with 2 hands the other day.
Well, or with a mallet,
Or with a mallet.
because when the music is really fast, you can't
You
do
can't
that
put these up and
fast
down.
enough and then mute it or damp it.
And so you can damp it on the table. But this one's big enough. Whoops. Oh. If it's on a pad, doesn't have enough padding. But it gives you, and if you can tip it just a little bit, then it sounds even longer.
Okay.
So that's one of the tricks of the trade, is not to have to pick it all the way up. You just push it down really hard so that it stays. But it will mute, but a lot of times you still have to put your hand on it because that whole thing is vibrating. So mallets are one of the things that we use. We have a big one to play that, and then we have little ones to play these. And they can be played. You can hold them and play them, or they have bell trees, which we don't have one yet. I'm hoping for one soon, where the little bells can be hung on the tree, and then you play them with mallets.
Ooh.
So it makes it much easier for one person to play, especially when the more bells you have, the more people you need. And a lot of times the really high ones and the really low ones aren't played a lot. So it can get, if you've got a way for them to play more than 2 bells, they're not quite so bored,
Yeah.
generally speaking. Another way to play them is to take your finger and pluck them. You can either pull it up or you can push it down. That works better, again, in the bigger bells. It's kind of a thump. Smaller bells are generally done with a thumb damp. You actually put your thumb on the bell. So it makes it muffles it. So it's more like in strings, it would be like a pizzicato. In piano and most other places, it would be like, I just lost the word. Short. I can't, sorry.
Staccato?
Thank you.
I thought you always wore gloves to handle bells.
For many, many years, it was recommended that you wear gloves because they thought that the oils in our hands
Would
would
tarnish.
tarnish the bells. What they have found since is that, especially if they are rubbed down, if they are wiped off
Oh,
at the end of every practice,
yeah.
that it's really not,
You don't
it's
have
not gonna hurt them that much. Dorothy no longer uses gloves because she uses an iPad for her music, and
Oh,
you
it
can't,
won't
and you
read.
can't turn the page with gloves on. When I'm playing with the big ones, I rarely use gloves anymore because
It's
the
hard to
gloves,
get
I'm
them.
afraid they're gonna slip. Some people, I've got some players who still want their gloves all the time. During COVID, we wore gloves just because
Each other.
that was a way to
Yeah.
keep things, we didn't have to wipe the belts down so much, so that was helpful. So that's why you will see people wearing gloves and people not wearing gloves.
Okay.
Another way to play the bell is called a mart, which is another short, stopped sound. And a mart lift, you have the short, stopped sound, but then if you pull it up, it continues to ring a little bit. So you will see that occasionally. You will see, can you stand up and do the tower swing? You're a little taller than me. They can see better, maybe. So you can tell when she rings it and moves with it that the sound moves. So that's another technique that we use on a fairly regular basis.
Are you going to show us music for bells? Because
I am.
surely it's different.
No, it's
It is
actually not.
Oh.
It is not.
I expect it to be
I thought it was gonna be.
more instructional, like how to.
There are symbols, just like in piano, there's a symbol for being soft or staccato or
Okay.
legato or whatever. There are symbols to represent each one of these techniques.
That's what yeah.
And it's not usually note by note. It can be. I mean, it can be note by note, but a lot of times it'll be a whole section
Right.
is played this way, or a whole line. All of the bass notes are gonna do whatever they're gonna do. So, this is the singing bell, and it's one of the, I would call it one of the newer techniques. I learned it about 3 years ago. We'll see if I can make it go.
Ooh.
The challenge is to get it to not do, there we go.
That's loud.
And it is, because it takes a little bit of time to get it started, it is usually used as as a background, you know. So that's, that one's really fun. It works, I like it best on the really big bells, but getting it at just the right, once you get it started, getting it at just the right tempo so you don't have that clatter is interesting. Shake. A shake is exactly what it sounds like.
Alarm clock.
You just shake it. That's when I have my grandchildren, sometimes that's what I'm thinking about. So, what else do we do that I'm not thinking about?
Well, one of the things that when you say what's bell music look like, it looks like chords, like because every note is on there, so it just looks like a bunch of giant chords that you could never play just with your hands.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that line right there
okay.
would be the bell part.
Mhm.
So it just looks like piano music with more chords than what your fingers can play.
That's because there's more than one person playing
That is
at
true.
that interval.
So it just looks like piano
See,
music. This
that
line,
is-
where my fingers are.
Yeah.
That one right there, yeah. Okay, and, one other little tidbit. Handbells is the only thing that I know of that it takes multiple people to play one instrument. In an orchestra, everybody plays their own instrument and it's combined to make a beautiful piece. But in handbells, however many bells you have out for said piece, that's the whole instrument. So it takes 2 people or 6 people or whatever it takes. It is considered one instrument, which I thought was very, very interesting. So, trying to think if there's anything else. We did martinlifts, we did shakes, we did plucks, we did mallets. Oh, there's one that, the last time we played, I think there was some of this. You ring it, and then you just twist the bell, which again, just changes the sound a little bit. Tim is very fond of this one.
He is.
If it's a whole note, if he has anything to do with it, he wants this done. Either that or he wants it to be a shake. He doesn't like just to hold it. So, I noticed that the other day. Handbells can be played, let's see, 3 years ago, at the Spectacular, we played Dancing Queen, which is an ABBA piece. On the Spectacular this year, we're playing Beatles. So you don't just have to do church music. You can do a little bit of everything, or anything. And I have a piece that uses these bells, not that one, that uses these bells. So, come try it.
Oh, right.
Come try it. Come on. Let me put it this way. I know you're afraid of touching them or banging them or whatever. Let me assure you
I've
that
done
Tim let
everything.
5 of them fall off of a table one day. So,
Ooh. Will not be that bad.
and they didn't break. So the only time I've ever seen a broken bell was when we got the big F, and when I opened the case, it had not been put in the case correctly, and it was cracked all the way up. So it was, and separated. It was,
Liberty Bell.
it's like, okay, not playing this one.
How does the bell ringers know which is their note?
Well, they are assigned, and they frequently mark them.
And color in.
And, yes, and what we're gonna do today,
It's loud.
your part is on one,
It
is,
feels loud when you're playing.
Really?
Yeah.
okay. Just try ringing it.
There you go.
Only start from a little higher and ring. Okay, the other thing that I forgot to tell anybody was you want to grip it. You don't want to hold it like a pencil. You want to grip it. Nice firm grip. That also helps you not.
You
not
have
move
these
those.
up here?
Is it okay to put these up, you think? Okay, yep. Okay.
You all have music we have to read?
Yes, I know.
Maybe. Now you're in the
Jeez.
Jeez,
on YouTube.
I am.
Now for the first time.
This is not good.
Okay, that's the 60. 7. That's a 6.
You get all these.
Is that one a little low?
I already played 2.
Because it's,
No, this one's the smallest one.
yeah, I was thinking
There
it
you
was
go.
not the
That's the scale now. This is the height, the C at the top of the next, well, this starts the next octave.
I don't know if I get it going.
I printed 2 of each one of these just because I was optimistic.
See, I can't keep it on.
Where's the E?
No, I don't play that one.
Yeah, Phil
Yeah.
texted.
She didn't get all of them out,
Ah.
probably, just the ones that we're gonna use.
Okay.
So, yeah.
They're not,
there would
they're not
be an
in,
E
I
here.
don't have all the bells out.
Okay.
Well, where did that one go? I'm confused. That's middle C. Who has middle C?
Is this
C
middle
five
That's
is
you.
middle C.
You have middle C. So why don't you take C and D? You take these 2. This is C,
Mhm.
Yeah.
middle C, and that's your D.
Yep.
And
this is F6.
So this is the F, and that's the C. And once you start,
The
just
bell
gonna
is
play.
what you wanna,
You're gonna keep playing it until we hit the
the
end.
bell symbol.
Okay.
Yeah, fine, okay.
Okay.
Same thing over here.
All right, and so, let's see.
You have to count. I'm terrible at that.
Well, I've seen the bell start doing
That's why Bob won't play.
that. I've seen the
He
bell
says
start.
he can't count.
Yeah,
But you can
lip
count
reach
out
with
loud,
it.
I don't care. Okay, and you play
That's
A,
what I get.
you get G and A. This is the A,
As I get them going.
that's the higher one, and this is the G. Okay,
Okay.
okay. And you guys have got,
Oh, you have.
I'll take these two.
Yeah, well,
I'll
no.
take the high C and the A, and so you've got the F and the G. Yeah.
okay,
And then the two of them together.
That's at the end.
right, that is correct, just like it would be
So,
on the
yeah,
piano.
at the end
All right,
is the.
who has,
big-
I have number one, what's your number?
2.
2,
4.
4,
5.
7. All right, we don't have quite all of them, but that's all right. I'm going to start, and I will play mine one measure, and then you're gonna add, I will keep going, and you're gonna add your measure.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, okay.
All right? And so on down the line, okay?
Are you gonna
All right.
count out loud so we all know?
I will count out loud. I will, I
Please.
promise, I will. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2,
Oh,
3,
we're repeating.
4. Okay.
I'm
Stop.
sorry.
All right,
I didn't
we're
know
gonna
we
do
were
it
gonna
again.
repeat.
We're gonna do it again, and we will repeat until I put my hand up like this. Okay, when I put my hand up like this, then we will do your A measure again, and then we'll do the end. All right?
So you have to start moving the bell before the downbeat.
Yes,
You do. Yes, you do, especially with the bigger ones.
You have to
Yeah,
anticipate.
when you
Yeah.
watch, if you watch somebody playing these, there's a much bigger anticipation. You have to
So
anticipate
how much should
faster.
we be anticipating? If we're going 1, 2, 3, 4 in our mind.
I'm just trying to follow. But
When she'd say 4, I think, oh,
You
I'm
want,
supposed to
you
do
want your bell to be here striking when I hit the number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah,
See, I didn't get it to go on 4.
because you went this
Because
way.
I went down instead of going.
Well, or instead of going from here and coming out, you're coming out, not down. There you go. If you come out, it'll ring. Okay, let's try it again. 1, 2, ready, I'm going. 1, nope, I'm going first, and then we're gonna add. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Done.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah.
Now you've played a processional.
Okay.
And what they would do with that is, and we've done it before, some groups have done it before, a processional is you walk in. So you're playing the same measure over and over and over again once you get in. And so you just, that way you can walk and play and not have to read music as you go. Processionals are similar to peals, which a peal was the patterns that I told you about that they used to do with the, because the bells in the belfry, the bells in the belfry. Bats in the belfry.
Bats in the belfry.
The bells in the towers, might be, they're not a whole, you're not gonna have the whole octave. So you can't necessarily play a tune anyways, but you might have something tuned similar to a C and something to an F and something, so they would be tuned so that they would work together. There you go. That's it. That is a piece of appeal. And appeal, usually the pattern, it starts and you start, there are some peals that have thousands of moves before they get done, because it depends on, you start at one end and whatever the pattern is, you do until you get all of the bells done in the pattern. And so some peals can take forever. If you've seen I've done it with the kids a couple of times, where they move their bells, rather than always remembering in what order they have to play it. So they actually moved, and they were playing up here at front 3 years ago at Christmas, on the Christmas pageant. That was the last time that we did that. Oh yeah, it's been a while. So, you wanna try that again?
Yes.
Let's do it again. 1, 2, okay.
Oh, I got
We're
it.
all-
I'm not going to count it out loud. You guys don't need me to count it out loud. You all know how to follow a director. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. 1, 2, Yeah. Cool. Sunday morning. Everybody ready to play Sunday morning?
They only want 50% of the notes played.
And I know you're having a little trouble getting the bigger ones to play.
I've got arthritis.
And you got some arthritis in your hands, and I was wondering about that, but it's also something that I can recommend bells for. It's really good upper body work,
Yeah.
and it actually is pretty good for your hands because it makes you do that squeezing.
Gripping.
You have to. I've got a thumb that I really have messed up, and if I practice more with the bells, it hurts a lot when I'm doing it, but then it does get better. So see, this is like lifting weights, only it's a whole lot more fun than just lifting a weight.
Our yoga teacher says movement is oil to the joints.
Yes, yes.
To a certain
So,
extent.
okay, questions? You are welcome to pet your bells as long as you would like and try them a little bit more.
Try mallets or
Why not?
Wow, there's a technique to this.
There is
yeah,
a
it
technique
is
to
fun.
this. And
It
if
took
you hit
me
your
a while
phone,
to get it to ring when I wanted it to ring.
I have had some ringers who have actually made themselves vests that are padded, so that when they go to damp their bell, they don't bruise themselves.
And the big ones, you know, with your hand or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, go like that with the real big ones.
There you go. See, you can play in bell choir.
Yeah, it's muted.
Oh, that is.
It is hard.
Yes, it's not as easy as it, I mean, it's not super hard, but it
There's
takes
some
some
technique.
concentration.
There's some technique.
There's some technique. There's some practice involved.
You don't want to hit it twice. You don't want to go bum bum.
No, we have done that before.
And then you can, it's louder. You can do a louder one and a softer one.
Tell already.
That's softer.
There you go.
Loud.
Yeah, see?
Then you have to start reading music and say, oh, that's loud. This
Well,
is
yes, that always
mezzo-forte.
helps.
So now we need forte, right?
That's right.
There you go.
It's not quite forte, is it?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
What?
One other way that they do forte a lot of times in bell music is to add more bells. If you're playing softer, not always, because there are times when we have 10 bells playing all at once and we're supposed to be playing soft, and I'm like, really? Really? Because it's harder to pull them down. I mean, your voice is much more
Flexible?
fluid as far as loud
The
and
little
soft.
ones are easier to get to ring.
Yeah,
Well,
see?
it's easier on my phone too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes.
I like making it go up and down.
The gyro.
Uh-huh.
The interesting part about that in a bell choir is getting everybody to either everybody going this way
Or the other way.
or everybody going this way, because it looks kind of funny
Yeah.
if you're not all turning it the
Yeah.
same way.
And that's a kind of a weird wrist action.
It is
if
a
you're
weird wrist-
left-handed
yeah.
or
It's part of that. It's part of that aerobics that you're doing for your hands.
Yeah, it would be hard for me to go left instead of right.
Boy, that's
Counter.
But what would you do with your left hand?
I don't know.
Pick one up with your left hand and see what you do.
Well, if you're doing both,
And what you want to try to do, and
Yes.
that's what you want to.
yes, that's the natural.
That's what everybody wants to do, is to go to the center.
Uh-huh.
this way.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want them to collide with each other.
No.
No, and that's always the problem.
I do like that.
For those of you on Zoom, I'd like to say thank you for attending today. If you too would like to try playing the bells at some time, just find me at church and we'll find a time when you can come and play and think about playing with us in the fall. And
Feel real natural too.
I believe this is the last Arts Adagio for the summer. We will start these again in the fall, probably starting in September. Thank you all for joining us, and I'll see you in